Anda menyaksikan Properti Point bersama saya Andi Shalini. Dan saat ini kami sudah bersama dengan Garth Simmons, CEO Accor Southeast Asia, Japan, and South Korea. Hello, Garth. How are you doing?
Oh, lovely. Nice to see you there,
Thank you for your time for CNBC Indonesia today.
Of course.
Garth, as we know, with a number such as challenging property sectors, such as interest rates, high inflation rate in Indonesia, and so on, how do you see the property sector in Indonesia in terms of the trend, prospect, and also the demand?
Yeah, I think we always go through different cycles, right? And there's no doubt the last couple of years, it's not just Indonesia, the whole globe's gone through some really interesting times. Property in general is for a long term, right? And while there's been some challenges, we actually see a big future in that property space moving forward. For us, in hotels, again, hotels, and when an investor gets into a hotel, it is for the long term, and that'll continue. Yes, interest rates have increased, and there has been some tightening in that banking sector, but we see that'll just be a big part of a cycle, and it'll come out. But hotels, as well as land, there's not more land being made, so that'll continue to grow in Indonesia as the population and the economy grows as well.
Okay, with a huge prospect, based on the Central Bureau of Indonesia Statistics, the room occupancy rate for non-star hotels and also stars hotels in Indonesia was 20.14% and 40.68% in respectively in January 2023, which means showing downward trend since the beginning of the year. How do you perceive this?
Yeah, well, we actually haven't seen that. We haven't seen that at all. In fact, we've seen some good strengthening in the market since mid last year. Indonesia came out very strong. It's a very big domestic market. So when I look at across our portfolio of properties, we're running in the mid 70% occupancy across the board. And that also includes Bali, which hasn't quite come back yet. So Bali, because its reliance on much more international business than the rest of Indonesia, is still coming back. But we're travelling above 2019 levels now, and in fact February was stronger than January, and we're seeing a very strong March, which will lead into Ramadan, which is traditionally a quieter period in the commercial spaces, although we'd expect Bali to get a kick on then. So yeah, interesting statistics, but we haven't seen that through our portfolio.
Okay, so even though social restrictions policy in Indonesia was revoked, but the hotel occupancy rate in Indonesia hasn't recovered to pre-pandemic levels. So what are the factors and what incentive needed from the government to revive the industry?
Yeah, listen, we're always very positive about the government in Indonesia and what they're doing. But as I mentioned, for us, we're actually seeing some pretty strong levels. So we're actually back to 2019 levels. Okay. Accor is. That's probably not all brands, but when we look at our platform of brands, we're in a pretty good space. We actually see some good strength ahead as well. The hotel market is reliant on population growth, on growth in domestic product. Indonesia itself, being the 4th largest population in the world, has a very big domestic market, which actually is all corporate, leisure, and that government trend as well. So we're happy to get some more incentives, but I think the market's in a pretty good space at the moment, and we'd expect that to continue. Again, Indonesia is super resilient. It's a super resilient economy in general. The people are resilient as well. We have had a tough couple of years, right? But I think we're in a pretty good space. Particularly, as you said, I look after pretty much all of Asia, and Indonesia has been actually far more robust as far as a market than some of the other countries.
So do you see the market is already back to pandemic level?
Yeah, we are. In fact, we were actually seeing room rates at a higher level than 2019 as well. So, I don't want to look too far in the future, but things are looking pretty good right now.
Okay. So what incentive needed from the industry to revive the industry?
Oh, listen, we can always look to get more. I think this will be an interesting year as well. We've got an election early next year, so I think there's no doubt the back end of the year might be a little bit quieter moving into the first part of 2024, but I think in general we're in a pretty good place. Our hope is that we have a good transition into the next government, and I think most of Indonesia wants that as well. So if you're looking for incentives, that would be good. That would be good.
Okay, Garth, as we know, recently the government in Bali is planning to ban foreign tourists from renting motorbikes over misbehavior, some of foreign tourists. In addition to affecting rental services, will this also affect the on arrival of foreign tourists, which will also have an impact on hotel occupancy rate? How do you perceive this?
Oh, listen, I think it's going to have a minimal impact. To be fair, to be honest, yeah. Okay. And quite frankly, if there's a change in rules because of health regulations and safety, I think we're really supportive of that, right? I think we've all been in Bali sometimes and we see those crazy motorbikes all over the place. So, I think it'll have a minimal impact, but the health and safety is the most important thing, I think.
Okay, currently also the staycation phenomenon is rife particularly in apartments and also boarding houses with daily rates. So, do you think this have an impact on the hotel businesses? If so, to what extent will it affect on the hotel businesses?
Yeah, we haven't seen that. We haven't seen that as yet. To be fair, I'm a big believer. There's a market for everybody as well, right? And while that is coming, it's something that's around the world as well, and it hasn't overly impacted the hotel business in general. But although having said that, we're expanding our portfolio into that extended stay as well, with hotel living, with Novotel Living and Novotel Suites as well as some of our other brands having extended stay products. So we see there's a need in that space for that's more for a longer stay space. But we haven't seen, it's a really good question, but we haven't actually seen an impact as yet.
So meanwhile, apartments or boarding house tenants do not have to have permits and also pay taxes, where hotels are taxed. So in the future, will the hotel business still interesting, or will the public switch their needs?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good one. You actually mentioned before about incentives. We wouldn't, just in a fairness of playing fields, it'd be great for the government to actually have a look at that for their taxes. But it hasn't impacted us as yet. But we believe that if a boarding house or an extended stay is travelling or acting like a hotel, they should also pay the same sort of taxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Moving on to Accor's business itself.
Sure.
How has Accor's property business developed in Indonesia over the few years?
Oh yeah, listen, we've been in Indonesia for many years now. We actually, while we're a multinational and an international company, we act like we're Indonesian. We've got a very big base here, and that's been a big part of our success as not just for ourselves, but actually for the locals as well, communities. We're very involved in the community, and that's actually helped us with our partners and working with government and the like. Our growth has been sensible, but we're the largest operator in Indonesia today, and we intend to stay that way. But we don't want to just grow for the sake of growth. You do it for the right reason. You want to make sure that you have the right location with the right brand with the right partner. Makes sense. So we think the next 5-10 years is very promising for Indonesia, not just in our industry, but in all industries, I think.
Very promising.
I think so.
But do you see there is a change of the trend over the past years?
Oh, listen, I think there's always some changes, yeah. And we've come out of the pandemic, and some things have changed because of the pandemic, just the way we act as people and the like. But ultimately, our industry is still about people, right? And our focus is still about people, making sure that we have the right. We call our people artists. We have the right artists that are working for us, and that our customers get what they're expecting in different locations and different brands, because all locations and brands are a little bit different. And then ultimately that our partners have success as well, because when our partners have success, we have success.
How about the market's behavior? It's changed, or is the trend still the same?
Oh no, it's changed. It's changed a bit. We're getting longer stays in Indonesia, so the length of stay has changed a little bit as well with corporate. There was a softening, there's no doubt, just after COVID, but now markets are back pretty heavy. We're sitting in this hotel here, and the international travel and corporate in this hotel was very strong before the pandemic, and it's returned in a big way, which is good. So I think, yes, things have changed a little, but people still have demand, and that demand is what they're doing for business, what they're doing for leisure, what they're doing for meetings, and that's continued. There was a whole viewpoint that conferences and MICE wouldn't be back, but it is. It's back very strongly all over the world. I think there's a lot of theories originally, but there's always a need for our asset class because people need to be somewhere for a particular reason, and that'll continue. So no, I think the message I really wanted to get was that while things change, it's still about people, right? It's still about making sure we've got the right people that are working and serving the right people.
Okay. How do you see the market and prospect of in the Indonesian market compared to the other region in Southeast Asia region?
Listen, I think we're very fortunate to be sitting in. This is the new world. Asia is the new world, right? So if you look at where we are, Southeast Asia in particular, the growth, the demographics, the economic growth factors is very strong. So for Indonesia, we're sitting here, the 4th largest population base in the world. That's not going to change. That's going to continue to grow. The demographics are very strong as far as where it is, and it's a proven fact. Innovation happens at that age group where the demographics are in Indonesia. So I think we're pretty good. But I do think Southeast Asia, just in general, is in a really good space as well. We see some really good prospects in Thailand. Vietnam is exceptional. We're very fortunate to be just as a partner and with China as well, and India's on this space over here. So you throw India, China, and Southeast Asia together, it's like 3/4 of the population of the world, right? It's kind of just here with strong economic growth coming out of all those countries. So we're sitting here in Indonesia, and I'd probably say, go Indonesia, and I'm really positive about Indonesia, and I am, but I'm positive about the rest of Southeast Asia as well.
Do you see there is a differences of behavior compared to Indonesia and the other Southeast Asia region?
Yeah, culturally, you mean? You mean culturally?
Yeah.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt the way business is done in each of those countries is a little different. But that is a culture. That's a culture more than anything else. In Indonesia, I'm always super excited to come to Indonesia because the people are so warm. I always feel so welcome in Indonesia. I used to live in Jakarta myself, so I love coming back to Jakarta. And a lot of people think Jakarta's crazy and such a big city, but there's a real warmth about it. But no, if we're comparing it to the rest of Southeast Asia, yeah, a little bit different, but still great people through all of Asia, I think.
Okay, Garth. As we know, the last 2 years were challenge years for the hotel industry. So how do you perceive this, and how Accor survive from the pandemic?
Yeah, it's a good question. There was, who knew what the future was going to look like when we were in the middle of the pandemic, right? Because everyone was making up new rules, right, of what would happen. And there's no doubt it was a really tough time through the pandemic. We worked with government and the like there was a different need for type of business as well. We all worked through quarantine business and helping people out and all those type of things. But Accor is a very resilient company. We've got a very strong balance sheet, and we were able to get through that in that space. And quite frankly, it was good to see most of the big multinationals come through with good strength as well, because there's a big need around the world for our asset class and our type of business, as other businesses are too. But there was no doubt it was a challenging time. But it's good to see it behind us now.
Okay, so how Accor's strategy to take the market compared to the competitiveness of the hotel industry?
Yeah, I think, like I said, the industry itself is really important to us. While us being dominant in that industry is important, the whole industry is important. For us, we'll continue doing what we've always done well. We'll invest in the local environment. We'll make sure that we're there. We'll invest in the people. We want to make sure that we're running good properties the right way and having good hotel keeping in our industry. And loyalty's always been a big part of what we do as well. So investing in our loyalty programs and our customers is super important. In fact, if you're here, we've got a City of All event on Central Park Mall here over the next 5 days, which is something super important for us. We'll get to showcase all of our brands, all of our hotels from all across Indonesia. Actually, some of our Singapore hotels have come in that space as well, because we're selling weddings, we're doing a lot of leisure stuff, a lot of business. There'll be lots of different types of events there as well. We did a similar one in Surabaya a month ago, and it's the first time we've been able to do it since 2020. In 2020, I was here in Singapore. We had it at Senayan City, and it was a super event. And now we haven't been able to do that for a couple of years, so now it's we're super happy to be back here doing that again. But no, I think for us, again, it's about our people and what we do in the local community. We're very involved in the community, so we've got our foundation in Indonesia as well, a Trust for a Child, which we've had running for over 20 years now, which we help underprivileged children and through making sure their education level's strong and stay educated as well. Many of those children have grown up and working in our hotels now, and listen, 2023, like I said, we've started the year really well, which is good. We're expecting to have a strong year in Indonesia, as all of Southeast Asia as well. I think I mentioned we're above 2019 levels now. So for us, we're expecting to have fingers crossed. You don't want to jinx yourself, but I think we're in for a pretty strong year. And we've got some exciting assets that are opening through Indonesia as well across a myriad of brands. So they're our focuses, making sure that we've got the right property in the right location with the right brand with the right partner is a big part for us. But I think at the end we could have another chat in December this year if you like, and I would imagine we'll be sitting in a situation saying we've had a really strong year.
Okay, but what are the challenges that Accor's or hospitality industry faces currently?
Oh, I think, listen, I think some of the challenges, I suppose, are still about air traffic, right? Like I said, we're of course travelling pretty well. I can't vouch for the whole industry, but we're travelling pretty well. But there's no doubt the air traffic and the levels of air traffic are a different level than they were in 2019. We're certainly not back up to there. Again, in a lot of those destinations, if you can't get there, you're not going there, right? So that's probably the biggest challenge, I suppose, is what we're seeing in the industry, is that the air traffic. But slowly but surely that'll get back up to those levels.
Okay, so what kind of business strategy will Accor implement in order to continue to grow amidst the challenge that we discussed earlier?
Yeah, I think, listen, doing exactly what we've always done. We'll be honest to our values, and we'll be a big part of the community. We'll work with the people in the communities. We'll make sure we grow our people as well. I'm really super excited. We had a general managers meeting in Indonesia yesterday. We had it here in Jakarta, and 79% of our GMs, general managers in our hotels are Indonesian, right? And so I'm super excited about that. So it's more about focusing on some of our core values and what we do, and that's actually about being able to train, foster an environment.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Garth. So glad to have you on our show today. Have a great day.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Demikianlah interview kami bersama dengan Garth Simmons, CEO Accor Southeast Asia, Japan, and South Korea. Saya Andi Shalini, CNBC Indonesia, Beyond Business.